A very good Sunday morning to you from the KTN News Center here in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. It is the 11th day of July, 2021. You're just joining us for your most qualified political show in town, Inside Politics, where, as always, we dissect the biggest political happenings in the country. We try to make sense of what's happening. And there's a lot to talk about. In fact, we will start with the National Super Alliance in any way, shape or form. Raila Odinga is saying that they have to unite or perish. Musalia Mudavadi, the ANC party leader, says NASA is dead. We have seen efforts, what look like the efforts by President Uhuru Kenyatta to put the band together again. How is that working out in the race to State House? In the meantime, in the next few hours, the people of Kiambaa, voters in Kiambaa constituency, will be going to the polls to elect their next member of parliament in what has been seen as a major litmus test and a vital showdown between the ruling Jubilee Party and the Ruto-backed UDA, United Democratic Alliance. Just what will be happening there? We have that to talk about. We shall be talking about Uhuru's tour of Ukambani region and some of the things the war said there, the political happenings, and the development projects as well. Be sure to stay with us for the next 120 minutes. Shall be introducing my panelists shortly, but let's begin with that NASA clamor to try and see if they can agree on a flag bearer for the 2022 presidential race. Let's begin with KTN senior political reporter Duncan Hyamba.
Indications that the center for the 2017 giant opposition alliance NASA could no longer hold unsevered links beyond repair, at least for now, came to the fore 2 weeks ago when Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka, who ran on joint ticket twice, openly traded jabs.
I would be the most stupid fellow on the earth to go and support the third time a presidential candidate.
Lakini wengine wanasema ati hawawezi kuniunga mkono. Mimi si nimeuliza wewe uniunge mkono?
At the center of the looming NASA collapse is revenue sharing. In this letter, dated 21st May 2021, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, on behalf of ANC and Ford Kenya, wrote a protest letter to ODM leader Raila Odinga regarding revenue sharing agreement. The negotiations on NASA coalition political party funds disbursements between NASA constituent parties. Kalonzo says despite ODM Deputy Party Leader Governor Wycliffe Oparanya agreeing to a meeting on 7th May on steps to be undertaken in unlocking the deadlock, Oparanya failed to show up for meetings scheduled and confirmed by him on the 7th, 10th and 21st May 2021. Kalonzo adds, and I quote, "In this backdrop, let us have your response to the issues raised in this letter within 7 days of receipt, failure to which it will be understood that you have abandoned all efforts towards an amicably negotiated settlement on this dispute, the upshot of which being that parties resort to the contractual dispute resolution mechanism as agreed." End of quote. Ford Kenya Party leader Moses Wetangula says, and I quote, "What is left of NASA is winding up and accountability issues. Public resources have been channeled to one of the partners who has completely refused to account." He confirms that attempts by Wiper leader mandated on their behalf to reach out to ODM for the last 6 months in search of a solution has hit a dead end, with ODM remaining unresponsive. With regard to an imminent NASA collapse, ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi says there are procedural issues to look at before the final decision is made. Obviously, people are working behind the scenes on the matter. End of quote. According to the NASA coalition agreement deposited at the Registrar of Political Parties, the coalition ceases to exist in the event 3 of the 5 parties pull out. CCM already ceased being a member immediately after the August 2017 general election and supported President Uhuru Kenyatta in the repeat presidential election, which NASA boycotted. Duncan Haemba, KTN News.
I'm joined in studio this morning by political risk analyst Dismas Mokua, as well as communication strategist Mark Bichachi. And for the first time here on the show, political analyst Joseph Kioko. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Also joining us on Zoom is governance expert Hesbon Owila. Shall be part of this discussion as well. Let's get into it, gentlemen. The three NASA principles that have not been seeing eye to eye with the ODM leader Raila Odinga have been blowing hot and cold about this issue. They have vowed to take ODM to court about the money issue and all that. On the other hand, there is a spirited effort by President Uhuru Kenyatta to put them together again, to try and unite them ahead of this, at the 2022 general election. Raila Odinga says on the headline of the Standard today, we must unite or perish. But Musalia Mudavadi, on the other hand, says, NASA is dead. It's not possible to revive it. Let me begin with you. What is the status of this NASA animal?
Well, as it were, the recent moves confirms that NASA is technically dead, because the three main partners have indicated that there is a trust deficit, that Raila Odinga has been playing a game which is anchored on a bit of mischief, that they can no longer take his word to the bank. Now, every time you go to a negotiation and you know that one of the partners, you cannot trust him, then it raises a bit of complications. And it's very worrying that, in fact, those three partners want to go to courts so that they can get their portion of the political party's resources. So, in a nutshell, what is missing in NASA and what is missing in the political space in Kenya is simply trust. That there is a trust deficit, that when politicians cut a deal, you cannot take that deal to the bank. You know, we are told that before the last elections, that Raila Odinga indicated to his partners that they give him support for the last time. He did not indicate that give me support based on the fact that I'm going to win. He indicated give me support that for the last time, give me your support, and then next time, whether or not I win, I'll support one of you. But according to insiders, it's decided to take a U-turn. And that is beginning to worry people to the extent that they can no longer take his word to the bank. And that's not just limited to NASA. It's also in Jubilee, it's in all the political parties. So in my view, what we need to do as a nation is to sanitize politics in Kenya. Because increasingly, the major political players, all of them are running on these toxic politics. It's fake news, alternative facts, lies, and deceit. So even when the NASA principles are talking about this, sometimes you begin to wonder, who between them is lying? Is it Raila who is lying? Or is it Kalonzo who is lying? Or is it Musalia Mudavadi lying? Or is it Wetangula? And also the same applies to President Kenyatta and he is a deputy. So you begin to wonder that in all these conversations...
We'll get into Jubilee in a short while. Mark Bichachi, Dismas has pointed out the idea of the issue of mistrust. There's also the small issue of the number of them not being able to agree, from what we understand at least, on who could be or who should be the flag bearer, presidential flag bearer in next year's presidential election. What gives from where you sit?
You know, I wish that politics, for the sake of Mudavadi and Kalonzo and Wetangula and Gideon, for that matter, was a matter of agreements. I wish for William Ruto that it was a matter of agreements. But these candidates are missing one very key, important point, Ben. Politics of democracy is politics of popularity. If you put all of them on the line, without batting an eyelid, we can tell automatically who number 1 and 2 will be in any particular race. We know it is William Ruto and Raila Odinga. Now, it is this mathematics that they cannot overcome. It is not the mathematics of who gave a promise in 2017. Because Kalonzo pulled a runner from ODM in 2007. Ruto pulled a runner from ODM between 2007 and 2013. All of them are a cabal of people who've turned on each other's promises. But where the rubber meets the road, where you separate the men from the boys, where the cream rises to the top, is the question of who is popular. Now, that question is impossible to solve between Kalonzo and his 800,000 votes in 2007, Mudavadi with his 470-something thousand votes in 2013, and the untested candidates who've never run for president. So the truth of the matter is, betrayal or not, at the end of the day, the question they have to ask themselves is 50 plus 1. Who gets there?
Good point. What about the issue of Raila has run 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and he yet can't manage to find the winning formula, and therefore they should be trying something? Is that an argument that stands?
It's a bad year to have such an argument, because there's a guy called Joe Robinette Biden who has run for presidency in the United States many times. Many people said, you're too old for this, but the moment was right. And you know, as they say, it is never over until it's over. Until Raila Odinga declares that it's over, he's still a viable candidate, and you cannot hold him, unfortunately, from exercising his democratic right to run for office, in as much as it is a betrayal of the 2017 agreement. But you will also argue that for them there was no election, because the first one was nullified, and the second one they boycotted.
All right.
So even in court, he will argue and say there was no election. So
all
that's
right.
a nuanced
It's important to point out at this point that Raila Odinga has not declared that he will be running for president in 2022. Joseph.
What Michache is arguing like these lawyers were in the Court of Appeal the other day. You cannot have a political conversation on technicalities. There was the presidential election, no, it was nullified, so I did not participate. No. What we are saying is that let's sanitize the Kenyan political space, that when a politician says, I'm going to run for this, and as a gentleman, I keep my word. Now, if we are all agreed that we say it's going to be toxic politics, then now let's introduce the toxic politics, fake news, alternative facts, full-blown.
But Dismas, let me just correct Dismas. I did not say that I support that Raila should turn around. I said two things, very key points. Number one, 50% plus 1, who will get there? And then number two, the arguments that Raila could postulate. Now, whether those arguments are valid or not, I am not Team Raila.
Well, that is, has not presented any evidence. You've not presented evidence that, for instance, Kalonzo cannot get 50 plus 1, or Msala cannot get 50 plus 1. Because
right,
during the last elections, they did not run.
Let's hear Kyoko's views on this. So there is the issue of the MOU that never stood. There's the issue of the current political climate and what the country wants, or what they think it wants. Where do you think NASA stands?
First, let me be appreciative for the opportunity to come and sit here with these great minds in this conversation about the new political dispensation that we as a country are looking forward to. But we must also be very clear that we cannot normalize betrayal as a virtue. We have seen it when Kibaki refused to honor the MOU with Raila in 2002. We have seen it when Raila prays around and says it was one bullet, now I have a magazine. We are seeing it developing in our own lifetime. We are seeing what Uhuru is doing to Ruto, publicly stating kumi yangu, kumi ya huyu. We must draw a line that betrayal is not our portion. Because if we allow this to go on, our generation, our kids' generation, will grow up knowing it is okay to promise publicly and not to honor it. It will start at the political atmosphere, sphere. It will move down to family level. It will go to schools. People will inculcate a culture of betrayal, and it becomes a norm. We must draw a line, irrespective of what politics are about. Secondly, on the candidature, on the NASA conversation.
Right.
NASA is a coalition, just like there was a code coalition. It must die because new actors are coming in. It is not a political viable option. Just like Jubilee is not a political viable option moving forward in the next election. We as a country, when new actors come in, will Jubilee want to be the Jubilee of Uhuru? Will it want to be swallowed by the code of NASA of Raila? Will anybody, if Kalonzo jolts out and runs to William Ruto, will Wiper be swallowed with the UDA? There must be a new coalition. New coalitions will emerge, not necessarily on account of bad politics, but because of necessity of showing supporters that I am still Wiper. We still carry our support base. And when we go there, whatever happens, we will be able to pull out and will still be a strong factor. That is the nature and the fluidity of our Kenyan politics.
So NASA is
gone. It won't be the next year, by January, there'll be a new clamor, a new coalition with a new flowery name that will capture the aspiration of people that will be in the ballot paper. It is definitely not going to be NASA. On the issues raised of fidelity to MOUs, what happened is Raila was given a chance, and Raila has been given a chance since 2007. The notion of 50+1 that Raila has gotten, or the proximity to getting to 50+1, was never actualized in 2007. It was never actualized in 2013. It was not actualized in 2017. So yes, Raila is a good player. He gets us to 42, but 42 does not take us to Kano. That is the hard conversation people of Nasser are saying. It is okay to get 48, but that's not the pass mark. We are not racing to get to 48%. Now, Barcelona, let me give an example of Barcelona. When Barcelona had Xavi, these great players, along Messi, the team was on top of the world. People did not know the other players, but when these other players went out, Barcelona is looking an ordinary team. Even despite having Messi there. So today, what NASA is,
without Messi.
It is Barcelona, no, not Barcelona without Messi. Barcelona without the other people who are considered irrelevant in the Barcelona equation. You cannot today say Mudavadi does not get over the top. Kalonzo cannot get over the top without giving him that space. If today we change the captaincy of NASA and say, let us try Kalonzo Musyoka, will the outcomes be different? Yes. Does Kalonzo honestly believe it can tip over NASA to 50+1? We will get there.
All right.
That is the conversation.
This gentleman disagrees because Kalonzo had 800,000 votes in 2007.
Then the first time Raila ran,
had
600,000 votes.
Thank you, this must say. The first time Raila did had 600. 2007, Kalonzo had 800,000 votes. In 2013, he gave Raila over 1 million Kamba votes. In 2017, he gave Raila over 1 million Kamba votes. Actually, Kambas voted for more for the coalition because they believe it takes them to power.
All right.
And they believe that in that combination, they can achieve better.
Let's get Owila's view on this. Hesbon, what are you thinking about what these gentlemen are saying about the National Super Alliance? Is it dead? Can it be revived?
Well, I think to a large extent, I agree with them on one fact, that this country will, going forward, be circling around coalitions towards the general election. And there's a high likelihood that another formation will come up that will capture the aspirations and the interest of so many Kenyans. It may not be NASA, and that does not necessarily mean that NASA is dead. It simply means that there are different political aspirations. And of course, the political leaders and the principals in NASA have different, aspirations for their people, which is totally different. In 2017, just like we saw, CORD was there because of the different dynamics, and Mudavadi coming in, they came up with NASA. But I think the crux of the matter here is simply the fact that whoever will be given the support by all the NASA principals is likely to give the Deputy President, William Ruto, a run for his money. And we've seen this before. In 2002, when Raila Odinga decided to support Kibaki, I think his support base, supported Kibaki to the last man. Now, in 2007, when Raila formed the Pentagon, we also realized that the team that he coalesced around was so formidable that to date, we don't know whether they won or they lost, But as many Kenyans know, that the race is going to be between two people. One person from the NASA circle against the deputy president. And it would be very politically naive for all the NASA principals to just go easy. They have to hustle, jostle, and show their might. And I think that is what is happening right now, that everyone is coming out strongly to show that they have that support. Because as Mark rightly puts it, democracy is about numbers. So you cannot sit in a table and say that because we supported Raila in 2017 and 2013, we need to be supported. As a matter of fact, you have to come with numbers that are substantive. And I think there is a narrative that is being floated, which is not right, that in 2017, it was easy for NASA to support Raila because he bulldozed them or something like that. The truth of the matter is, and it is on record, they actually talked about this. They all wanted Isaac Ruto to be the flag bearer to trounce Jubilee, but he said he was not ready. So there is a lot to a presidential campaign, and what is important at this moment is that we've had histories of betrayal that going forward, people are talking about MOUs that we are never privy to. So it is incumbent upon these political, key players to sanitize this process going forward. And I think what is happening right now is calling for a very structured way of negotiating these coalitions, either before or after the election. And I think it is good for this country that we know.
So tell me this,
husband. Yes.
Tell me this. So Raila Odinga still thinks he has another bullet, although he has not publicly declared, openly saying officially he'll be running for the presidency. But the other three gentlemen, the other three principals in NASA, they are talking tougher this time round. They are not. They are more confident that they deserve more. So, do you think there's a chance of them getting any kind of compromise with 13 months to the next election?
Well, I know they will. They will definitely get to a compromise because there are only two alternatives. You are either in that coalition that they'll come up with, and if President Uhuru Kenyatta is on their side, they're likely to win, or you're going to play second fiddle to the deputy president. And there's no two way about it. We saw that in 2002 when a big chunk of KANU broke away in the name of Rainbow, and they couldn't create a third force. They had to join Kibaki. I mean, circumstances forced them to do that. And where we are today, it's the same thing. If you break away from NASA, you're not going to create a third force. It is impossible. If you create a third force, you're likely to run away to political oblivion. So the other alternative is to join the deputy president. So they'll have to sit down and come up with an arrangement. But there's also something else of Raila, whether people think Raila has this last bullet in as much as he has not declared that he's running. I don't think it's about what Raila thinks. It's basically a question of where are the numbers? If the numbers suggest that Raila has enough ammunition, there is very little that other political players can say, because we live in a democracy. It is one man, one vote. If you have so many men, then you have that political clout.
Hold that thought, Hesbon. Tell me this, Dismas. Is it only about the numbers and who can win, or is it also about what these presidential hopefuls, have as plans for Kenya?
There are many factors that come to play. And Mr. Will has made some assumptions that we can, he's really committed murder. That number one, is making the assumption that in fact Raila Odinga is going to be the ODM presidential candidate. We've been told times above number that ODM in fact is a democratic party or a democratic movement. And Mr. Jimmy Wanjiga has indicated he wants to run for presidency and is going for the ODM ticket. So if there's going to be a democracy in ODM, there's a very high chance that Jimmy Wanjiga is going to put up a fight. And what if he emerges the winner? He becomes the candidate, then Raila will become a chapter in history books. Now the tragedy we have today, as we are coming up with these permutations and combinations, Murai is nowhere in the matrix. Murai is wallowing in misery back in the village in Mosocho. And these politicians are just talking about numbers, and they don't look at morale, they don't look at socioeconomic needs, they're just looking at numbers. But for you to become president of the Republic of Kenya, number one, you must have resources. So understand that is a nice bank balance. Number two, you must have a strategy. Then number three, you must have the capacity of bringing numbers. And politics in Kenya has become transactional. That if you've got resources, there's a very high chance that you can win any elective seat. That's why when you go back to the village, a young man who's participated maybe in KEMSA deals or these transactions, all of a sudden he wants to become an MP and he can easily win. So if you're going to become president of Kenya, you must demonstrate that you have resources, that you've got numbers, and you have a strategy. In the absence of those three, you will be part of, you see when you see the president's escort, there's a vehicle you might think president's escort. So you'll be part of the escort, people like Dida. And also number three, we must run away from framing the next presidential election as a two-horse race. Let's give Kenyans the opportunity. If there's going to be more than 2 strong candidates, let's not start discouraging people. Maybe Mr. Kyoke wants to run for president. Why are we telling him that it can only be somebody from NASA, somebody from Jubilee UDA, and we discourage him from running?
All right. I want us to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back on this and what it means and what the president's true of Kambani and some of the things that he said that were borderline political punchlines. We'll talk about that when we come back. You're watching Inside Politics here on KTN News. Don't go too far. When we come back, we shall be focusing on that. Remember, the people of Kiambaa, voters in Kiambaa, are preparing to go to the polls to elect their next member of parliament in a showdown that is seen again as not just being about the Kiambaa constituency in the county of Kiambu, but also about the 2022 matrix between Jubilee and UDA. Stay with us.
This is KTN News.
Unaweza kusikiza wimbo wowote na free internet kutoka Safaricom.
Hata rumba.
Rumba unapata.
Mtu akitaka